I worked on my birthday. Then my dad sent the message that made me leave forever. Yesterday was my birthday, and I spent the entire day at work. Nothing unusual about that around here. My family's always been big on earning your keep, and my father's mantra has always been, you want something? You work for it. Still, I felt a little bitter. Couldn't even take my own birthday off, but I let it go. I figured I'd finish up, head home, maybe grab some takeout and unwind. I clocked out around 7 in the evening. As I walked through the parking lot, I pulled out my phone. That's when I noticed a bunch of messages from my dad. Not that strange in itself. He constantly texts about stuff like whether I remembered to put the trash out or if the Wi-Fi's acting up. But this time the messages were longer, and the first one hit like a punch. We sold your car. Family comes first. Be grateful we let you stay here. I froze right there between rows of cars, rereading that line. I half hoped it was a joke. He has a dry kind of humor sometimes, and I thought maybe that was all this was. But then came another message. This one just as stiffly worded, oh, and your brother's starting college. You'll cover his first semester. $5,200 due this week. The car in question wasn't anything flashy, just a second-hand vehicle I'd managed to buy after saving up over a few years. I paid for the registration, the maintenance, the insurance, but the title? That was under my dad's name, he insisted. Said insurance would be cheaper that way. I should have known that would backfire. But back then, I just wanted to stop catching rides and get to work on my own terms. So I texted back, not happening. He didn't hesitate. His next reply was then pack your stuff. You're dead to me. So I walked home. What else was I supposed to do? My car was gone. It took me nearly an hour, and the sky was already getting dark. The whole way there, I kept thinking, is this real? Did he actually sell my car without even talking to me? When I stepped inside the house, my mom was in the kitchen, staring at the sink, silently washing dishes like she wasn't really there. My dad was in the living room, the TV blaring, but he wasn't watching. My younger brother Bryce was nowhere to be found. I stood in the hallway and asked, did you actually sell my car? My dad didn't look up. He just said, family comes first. You're old enough to contribute, so you will. That's how he always is. If I push back even a little, the rest of the family falls into line like it's them against me. Bryce has always been the favorite, and our aunt and uncle, who live a few blocks away, are like my dad's personal enforcers. Whenever he wants backup, they're there. My mom finally said something. You know Bryce needs this. He has a real future. Don't be selfish, like I've never done anything for this family. I'm the one fixing their phones, setting up accounts, handling bills when dad forgets, running errands no one else wants to do, but none of it counts unless it's on his terms. If I say no, suddenly I'm lazy. I went to my room and started packing. I've been through this kind of thing before. The last big blow-up was over letting Bryce borrow my laptop, which he ended up breaking. After that, it was weeks of passive-aggressive silence and little digs, never said directly, always through someone else. I didn't have much to pack, just clothes, some gadgets, and odds and ends I've held onto since school. As I packed, I heard my dad on the phone, probably calling my uncle, ranting about how I was being dramatic. I called my friend Milo and asked if I could crash at his place. He was surprised but said yes. I shoved my things into 2 duffels and a backpack. I wasn't even thinking about what I might be leaving behind. I was running on pure frustration. I could hear my mom crying in the hallway, still not saying a word to me, just standing there like a ghost. When I tried to leave, my dad stood in the doorway. If you walk out now, you don't come back. You should be thankful I let you stay this long. I barely listened. I tried to move past him. He gave me a shove, not enough to knock me over, but enough to make a point. I shoved back, and he looked at me like I was nothing. I walked past him and didn't look back. The whole walk to Milo's place, I was stewing. My dad always acts like he doesn't need anyone, but he can't even pay a bill online without me. I handled everything, the banking, the utilities, even the accounts he used for selling furniture and electronics. He calls me a freeloader, but I was the one quietly keeping everything functional. If I was dead to him, I decided then fine, I'd take everything I'd done for him and undo it. I wasn't talking about anything illegal. I just meant cutting myself out of everything I'd set up. First, I changed every password I had. The streaming services, the banking apps, the utilities I had linked to my account. Then I removed my name from anything I was listed on. For the online marketplace accounts he used for his side hustle, I deactivated my logins and disconnected my email. I didn't touch a cent that wasn't mine, but I shut off every system I had managed for him, quietly, thoroughly. I left one thing behind though, something small, not flashy, just a folder. but it held receipts, literal and otherwise. I wanted to see if they'd even notice it. Then I sent a short message to my aunt. "I've left. Ask your brother why." That was it. No explanations. Just enough to set the wheels turning. She must have called my dad immediately because not 10 minutes later I heard shouting through the walls at Milo's place. My dad's voice, angry and wild, barking through the phone. I lay there on Milo's couch, staring at the ceiling, scrolling through my phone, debating whether I should post something. Should I explain what happened to the rest of the family, or just let the chaos unfold on its own? Truth is, I've always known my dad couldn't stand that I wasn't like him, that I wouldn't just nod and do whatever he said. He only cares about looking like the strong, righteous father to the rest of the family, not about actually doing right by us. He treats me like I'm disposable, like I'm just a tool to fix his mistakes, clean up his messes. Meanwhile, Bryce is the golden child, obedient, agreeable. I ask questions, and that makes me the problem. I didn't sleep, just stared at my screen, expecting another flood of messages, but the phone stayed quiet. That silence made me more anxious than anything. I knew the next day would be chaos. They were going to find that folder. The one with the list of every bill I paid, every service I maintained, every message where my dad asked me to put things in my name to make it easier. And once they did, there would be no pretending it hadn't happened. But I wasn't going to be around to clean up the mess. Update 1. Yeah, things exploded way faster than I expected. I barely got any sleep at Milo's. His couch is more like a blanket over old springs, and his cat kept stepping on my chest at 3 in the morning. But honestly, I didn't even care. My mind was buzzing too much to rest. By the time morning hit, I had a dozen notifications. Group chats were lighting up. Aunt Lisa's name kept popping up, but I didn't open anything right away. I was waiting for the moment they'd realize what I'd actually done. The first sign, a Facebook post from my cousin asking if anyone could help her mom fix the Wi-Fi. Not a big deal on its own, but usually I'd be the one to go over and handle it. I'd set up everything, not just at our place, but at Aunt Lisa and Uncle Drew's too. I was the family tech guy, resetting routers, troubleshooting printers, setting up Netflix for the little cousins. Now, I was being tagged in comments like, "Can Aiden swing by?" I didn't respond, but then things got real. Around noon, I got a missed call from my mom. I didn't pick up, then Bryce texted, "Dad's freaking out. Says the money's not where it's supposed to be." He didn't say more, but I knew exactly what he meant. My dad can barely use a phone. He hates dealing with websites and online banking. So he'd gotten used to having me handle it all, paying the bills, transferring money, setting up autopays. But last night I'd removed my info from everything. All those systems, they don't work anymore. The water bill, the electric, the internet, all canceled or frozen. And the Netflix account, I paid for it. Bryce gave the password to half the family. Well, now it's gone. It didn't take a cent that didn't belong to me. But I made sure they were on their own. For once, I think this is where I finally admit it. I was their unpaid tech support, their bill guy, their fixer, and no one even said thank you. My dad just acted like it was my job. He calls himself old school, but let's be real. It's laziness. He wanted the control but none of the work. He always resented that I didn't fall in line like Bryce did. Bryce is quiet, agreeable. I question things, so I'm labeled disrespectful. He's never hit me, but he's shoved me, slammed doors, screamed so loud the neighbors could hear. Never out of anger, just out of the need to be right. Even Milo, who thought I was exaggerating at first, was shocked when I showed him the texts. Stuff like, "You're a leech, you owe us, you wouldn't last a week on your own." While we were eating leftover pizza, I got another one. All caps, total meltdown. Around 2, I got a ping from Facebook Marketplace. One of my dad's old listings went live again, but he'd accidentally left my number as the contact. He'd been using mine for years since he hated answering strangers' calls. Now I was getting messages about old stereo equipment. I told them to try his number, let him deal with it for once. I also removed myself from the spreadsheet he used to track his side business, pickup times, contacts, payments. I didn't delete anything, just unlinked myself from it. Now he's flying blind, and that's on him. By mid-afternoon, Bryce was blowing up my phone. At first he was mad, then it turned into pleading. He said, "Dad's losing it. He's blaming me now because the college payment didn't go through." I already knew what had happened. The account wasn't locked. It just wasn't under my control anymore. Now if Dad wanted something paid, he'd actually have to do it himself. Bryce tried to make it my fault, but then he admitted something. I didn't even want to start college this year. Dad signed me up without asking. I just told him, that's between you and him. I'm not funding your future. Then my phone rang again. This time it was Aunt Lisa. I answered because I knew if I didn't, she'd probably show up in person. She was furious. Your dad says you stole from the family, that you're sabotaging everything, that you're selfish and ungrateful. I told her to ask him a few things. Ask how many bills were in my name, how many nights I spent fixing the internet or making sure things didn't get shut off. Ask how many times I was the one keeping things running while he sat on the couch ranting about respect. She didn't respond, just hung up. Later, Milo and I went out to grab some food, and we drove past my old house. Not on purpose, it's just on the way. That's when I saw Uncle Drew's truck parked in the driveway. That's never a good sign. He's my dad's go-to guy when he wants to put pressure on someone. Always has been. Both of them were standing out front, shouting at each other. My mom was sitting on the porch, arms crossed, staring at her phone. She wasn't crying. I think she was just done. Back at Milo's, I started getting random DMs from cousins. Some were asking what happened. Others wanted to know why everyone was fighting. I kept it simple. There was an argument. Dad sold my car. I left. Some believed me, some didn't. Then Aunt Lisa posted in the family group chat. Aiden has chosen to distance himself from our family's values. I muted the chat. I knew what was coming next. Bryce texted again, this time more panicked. I'm locked out of my college portal. Dad never saved the login, and now he's freaking out. He says you have to fix it. I told him, call customer service. Good luck. He called me a jerk, but I knew that anger wasn't really aimed at me. He was mad at the one person actually responsible for all of it, our father. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts. The first was from Dad. Guilt trip central. The electric bill is overdue. The water might get shut off. Bryce can't register for classes. Lisa's threatening to call your grandmother. You need to come home and fix this, or else. I didn't reply. Milo's mom came home later and saw my bag still stacked near the kitchen. She looked at me and asked, everything okay? I gave her a shortened version of the story. She just shook her head and said, families can be weird sometimes. Then she handed me a plate of food and told me I could stay as long as I needed. And honestly, I didn't feel guilty, not even a little bit. Everything I did was above board. I didn't touch anything that wasn't mine. I just removed myself from all the systems and services they never appreciated. I was never treated like part of the family, unless it meant being useful. Now they'd see what life looked like without the unpaid help. That afternoon, I got a text from a neighbor I barely knew. Old guy, walks his dog past the house every day. Saw your dad out front today. He looked rough. Heard yelling, hope you're okay, kid. Let me know if you need anything. I didn't respond, but I saved the message, because soon enough, they were going to find what I left behind. That folder buried in my desk drawer, the one with all the receipts, the messages, the details they never wanted to talk about. And when they did, it was going to tear through the house like a storm. I wouldn't be there to clean it up. Update 2. Honestly, I wasn't even planning to post another update this soon, but everything has blown up way beyond what I imagined. I knew my dad could be stubborn. I just didn't think he'd completely unravel in front of the whole neighborhood. It's been a couple of days since I left. I figured I'd get a few nasty texts, maybe some silence after that. But no, it's been non-stop group messages, guilt trips, and calls like it's some kind of emergency. This morning, Milo walked in, holding my phone. I'd left it charging on the kitchen counter. He said, man, your family is blowing up Messenger, like all of them. Sure enough, my missed calls list was full, mostly from my dad, a couple from Aunt Lisa, even one from Uncle Drew. I was ready to ignore it all until my mom called. I figured maybe she'd be calm. I was wrong. She jumped in with, why are you doing this to us? Bryce's future is on the line. You're tearing the family apart. I cut her off. Dad sold my car, told me I was dead to him. So I left. She hung up. I heard the sound of something slamming. Maybe a door, just before the call ended. Then Bryce texted again. Dad's completely lost it. He's saying if I can't fix the college login, he's pulling me out. I asked him, did you even want to go? He didn't reply right away. Then he said, not really. Dad said it was an investment. I told him straight up, "You're not an investment, you're a person." He left me on read. A little after noon, I got a DM from someone I barely knew. "She's a family friend, mostly shows up at cookouts and birthdays," she said. "Your dad's calling everyone he knows, asking for help with the water bill. He says he can't access his account." She asked, "Everything okay?" I just replied, "Yeah, I moved out. He's handling it." She gave a thumbs up emoji. That was it. Later I saw that my dad had posted a long public rant on Facebook. The kind of post that tries to sound noble, but is really just coded bitterness. Something about kids not respecting family, how no one wants to sacrifice anymore. He tagged Aunt Lisa and Uncle Drew. They both commented with things like, "We've got your back. Family comes first." But then I noticed my cousin Jordan commented, "What happened to Aiden's car?" And suddenly silence. No one replied. Around 4 p.m., Milo and I were watching videos when I heard a car outside. I looked through the window. Uncle Drew's truck. He walked right up to the door and knocked. Just stood there waiting.
Milo opened it.
Uncle Drew didn't say hello. He just said, "Is Aiden here? We need to talk." I stepped out. He didn't waste time. "You need to fix this. Your dad's behind on bills. Your brother's in trouble. We're all trying to help, and you're being selfish." I told him I'm not responsible for cleaning up Dad's messes anymore. I wasn't treated like family, unless it meant doing work or paying for things. I'm done. He took a step forward and shoved me, not hard, but enough to show he thought he could. Milo was behind me. "Back off, man," he said. Uncle Drew narrowed his eyes. "You're just like your father, always causing problems." I stared him down. "Maybe you should think about how you treat people when they stop doing what you want." He went red in the face, muttered something about ungrateful kids, then stormed off, slamming the gate as he left. From there everything escalated. My phone started pinging again, this time from numbers I didn't recognize. Guess Dad's handing out my contact info now. One was from Aunt Brenda, who I barely talked to. "Is it true you stole from your dad?" I sent her a screenshot of the car's title with his name on it, along with payment receipts for the bills I'd been covering for the last year. She didn't reply. Out of nowhere, Bryce showed up at Milo's, on his bike. He looked drained. He came inside, grabbed a glass of water, and just sat there on the couch, quiet. For 10 minutes, he didn't say a word. Then finally he said, "Dad's telling everyone you're a thief, that you ruined everything. Grandma's threatening to pull his loan." I asked, "Are you okay?" He shook his head. "I'm tired of being the favorite if it means I get blamed for all of this." Then he said something I didn't expect. "I wish I could leave too." I looked at him and said, "You can, but you have to want it." He nodded slowly, like he was trying to figure that out. We talked for a while. Normal stuff. He asked what I was going to do next. I told him I wasn't letting Dad run my life anymore. If they wanted me gone, I was gone. But I wasn't going quietly. That night I got a rare text from my mom. Not in the group chat, just her. "Your dad's losing it," yelling, slamming the table, making threats. "I wish you'd just talk to him." But I get it. I didn't reply. Later I peeked at the family group chat again. Pure chaos. Aunt Lisa and Uncle Drew were fighting. Jordan was saying it wasn't fair. Grandma was shaming everyone. Someone posted a screenshot of Dad's rant. Then a bunch of cousins left the group. It was a mess. The weirdest part, Bryce was finally talking to me like a real person. Like a brother. He told me he stood up to Dad. Said he wouldn't go to college if it meant destroying the family. Dad didn't take that well. According to Bryce, he completely lost it. Pushed him against the wall, then stormed out and started screaming at the neighbors about how his kids were ungrateful. My mom tried to step in, and Dad shoved her too. That's when Aunt Lisa broke down crying, and Uncle Drew started yelling at Dad, telling him he was out of control and making everything worse. The family that always backed him up was finally seeing him for who he really was. Everything started fracturing after that. Nobody was talking. Everyone was blaming each other. Dad looked ridiculous, yelling on the porch while neighbors tried not to stare. Bryce said he was thinking about staying with a friend for a while if things didn't calm down. I told him he could crash at Milo's if he needed to. Milo just shrugged and said, "Sure." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd actually done something that mattered. Not just for me, but for Bryce too. I wasn't going to fix their messes, but I also wasn't going to let them lie about me anymore. I knew the packet I left was still sitting in my old desk drawer under a mess of cables and junk. When someone finally found it, all hell was going to break loose. And then, it happened. Final update: I always figured these kinds of revenge stories were overhyped, too dramatic, too clean. But this actually happened. And yeah, it was ugly. But it was also kind of perfect. The day started normal. I woke up at Milo's place. His cat was chewing on my charger again, which honestly felt on brand at this point. I checked my phone, nothing out of the ordinary. A text from my cousin Jordan, asking if I was coming to the next family cookout, and another message from Dad, full of the usual guilt-tripping nonsense. I ignored both. Then it came a wild all-caps string of messages from Aunt Lisa. "How could you do this? You ruined everything." I knew instantly what had happened. They'd found the folder. Before I left, I'd put together a neat little package, screenshots of every bill I paid, every transfer I made for Dad, every text where he asked me to use my account or my name to make it easier. A full letter explaining what I'd handled, what was on him, and how much of that side hustle money went straight into his hobby collection, not the family fund, like he always claimed. I placed it all in the bottom drawer of my desk, beneath old chargers and receipts. I knew my mom would find it eventually. She always deep cleans when she's upset, and now it had been discovered. From Milo's kitchen window, I saw Uncle Drew's truck roll into the driveway. Normal at first, but not even 5 minutes later, the shouting began. And not just regular yelling, the kind that cuts through walls and makes neighbors peek through blinds. Aunt Lisa's voice rose, sobbing. She slammed the front door and sat on the porch with her head in her hands. Uncle Drew came out, red-faced, slammed the hood of his truck, then went back inside to yell some more. My dad eventually stepped out onto the porch, pacing with his phone. Even from Milo's place I could hear him, raving about how everyone was turning against him, saying I'd made him look bad, that it was all lies. At one point he called out to our neighbor across the street, asking if she'd seen me. She just shook her head and kept walking her dog. Then I got a rare message from my mom. "I read your letter. I wish you'd told me sooner. Your father is furious. Drew's threatening to cut him off if he doesn't shape up. Lisa's still crying. And now your dad's out front asking the neighbors for help because the electric got shut off and the water bill is overdue." Shortly after, Bryce called. Not a text, an actual call. He said, "It's total chaos here. Dad's blaming everyone. Uncle Drew's threatening to move out. Aunt Lisa's in the kitchen crying. Some neighbor came over just to ask what was going on." Then he said, "That folder you left, it blew everything up." And for the first time he sounded relieved. A few minutes later, I got a message from Grandma. She said she'd been sent screenshots of all my receipts, and she wanted to have a talk with my father. That nearly made me laugh. In the family group chat, my dad tried to defend himself, but now people were asking real questions. "Show us the bills. Where did the money go?" All Dad could do was repeat his line. Family comes first, but this time no one was buying it. Then someone posted a picture of the car sale paperwork, the one with his signature. My name wasn't on it. People started connecting the dots. Milo's mom came into the kitchen. "Your dad's making a scene out front. Want me to call someone?" I said no. "Let him scream, he'll stop eventually." She said he was begging the neighbors for help with the water bill. I just shook my head. Then Bryce texted again. "I'm done. I'm staying with a friend for now. Can you give me a ride?" I said yes. Told him to meet me at the corner. Milo tossed me his car keys and grinned. "Bring back fries." That was the most normal support I'd gotten through all of this. Right before I left, I got one last call from Aunt Lisa. This time she wasn't yelling. Her voice was tired. She said, "I wish things had been different." I told her, "Me too, but I'm not sorry." I drove past the house. My dad was still out on the porch, talking to the neighbor who used to complain about our recycling bins. Now he was the one begging for help. Uncle Drew's truck was gone. The kitchen lights were off. I didn't stop, so yeah, that was it. I left the folder. They found it, and now everyone knows. My dad always preached, family comes first, but what he really meant was, his comfort comes first. And everyone else was just there to keep it running. Not anymore. I'm not going back. I don't care if they lose power or have to call the water company themselves. I'm done being the emergency backup plan. If you've read this far, here's the takeaway. Don't let people use you just because it's easier for them. Sometimes the only way to make people see the mess they've made is to let it fall apart in their hands. Thanks for listening.